Solomon was the king of Israel between 970 and 930. His major accomplishment was the construction of the first temple of Jerusalem. Solomon, whose name comes from the Hebrew Shalom piece, was the son of Bathsheba and David, who ruled over the 12 tribes that formed the Hebrew people and gathered in the region of Palestine for 40 years. The events of his life are narrated in biblical books, such as I Kings and 2 Chronicles. After the death of David, his son Solomon ascended to the throne at the age of only 20, anointed king by the high priest. Despite his youth, he was a wise man known and respected throughout the kingdom. The Bible says his heart was filled with wisdom. God granted Solomon extraordinary wisdom and intelligence. Solomon inherited from his father an extensive kingdom that stretched from the Euphrates River to the Egyptian border. Jerusalem, situated on the central mountain of the country, which had been conquered by David, was the capital of his kingdom. Solomon established a unified administration. In the desert region of Negev, he organized the exploitation of a copper mine. Its ruins have been found by archaeologists. On the shore of the Dead Sea, he exploited the existence of salt. He promoted the trade of horses between Cilicia and Egypt, introduced horse-drawn chariots into the army, and established a transportation network. In the Gulf of Akaka, Solomon built the port of Asian-Geber near Eilat to trade with Arabia, Ethiopia, and even with India, which according to some historians, the biblical name Ophir corresponds to that Asian country. Some archaeologists have found ruins of Solomon's port on the coast of the Gulf of Aqaba, as the Bible states, which gave present-day Israel maritime access to Africa and Asia. Gradually, Solomon's wealth increased. He had an enormous palace in Jerusalem and a summer residence in the mountains of Lebanon. His throne was made of ivory, overlaid with pure gold. As the Bible says, all of Solomon's drinking cups were made of gold, according to the customs of the time, and also for political convenience. Solomon married daughters of Moabite, Edomite, Hittite, and other peoples who were living in Judah and Israel. Solomon, who reigned between 970 and 930 BC, according to the Book of Kings, had 700 princess wives and 300 concubines. Despite being young, Solomon was a well-known and respected wise man throughout the region. Even nobles and princes from distant lands sought Solomon's counsel. The Bible says that Solomon uttered 3,000 proverbs, and he treated his subjects equally, whether foreigners, the rich, the poor, or those who praise the omnipresent God of the Jews, Yahweh. Among the famous visitors, there is the account of the Queen of Sheba. Historians suppose that she ruled an African region on the shores of the Red Sea. The Ethiopians believe that their emperors are descended from Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. It is estimated that King Solomon wrote 1,005 songs. It is believed that he authored the biblical books of Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, Song of Solomon, and Psalm 127. However, there is only certainty regarding the Proverbs, which were collected by Jewish tradition into a book and later canonized as part of the Old Testament. They were grouped into 31 chapters containing 850 verses, all praising understanding among people, justice, piety, wisdom, and love. Among them, to build a home, wisdom is required. With intelligence, it becomes steadfast. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, nor delight in their stumbling. When the righteous rise, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people sigh. The wise seek to learn, while fools are content with their own ignorance. Until then, there was no special place to worship God. The Hebrews believed that any place was suitable for prayers. However, after consolidating his power, Solomon decided to build the temple in Jerusalem, later called the Temple of Solomon. The craftsmen came from Tyre, and King Hiram sent Phoenician architects, cedar, and cypress in exchange for wheat and crude oil. The construction likely began in 959 BC and was completed 7 years later. The building was a complex of courtyards and porticos. Its roof and walls were covered with cedar, and there were gold friezes, candelabra, vessels, and high and low decorations inside. This is the description from the Bible. Solomon died in Jerusalem, probably around 930 BC. After his death, Palestine was divided into two kingdoms. This division led to the weakening of the Hebrew people, the loss of their territory, and the dispersion of their people. The Temple of Solomon was destroyed 5 centuries later by the Babylonian invaders. Rebuilt, it was raised again in 70 AD by the Roman legions. To this day, only one wall remains, which the Jews venerate and call the Western Wall, or Wailing Wall.